Good evening to all of you. My name is Raj Kumar. I'm the founding Vice Chancellor of OP Jindal Global University and the Dean of Jindal Global Law School. I wish we do this in a different circumstances when I can actually meet you in person. Obviously, the world is facing an extraordinarily challenging times. The global pandemic has created a new imagination for how the future might look like. And let me begin by saying that I sincerely hope all of you, including your parents, your family members, your friends, your relatives, and all those people whom you are connected to are safe and are indeed healthy, and ensure that you follow the social distancing norms and remain safe in wherever you are. I'm very delighted to see all of you in this mode. Although, as I said, it'll be wonderful to see your faces as well. It's a very important moment for us to talk about the future of education, and in particular, the future of law. I wanted to have this discussion with all of you also because of the fact that many of you, particularly you are in the high school, you might be thinking about your future. You might have taken the 12th standard examination anxiously, looking at what kind of career possibilities you might explore, and several of you might have already made a choice about wanting to study law. So the goal of this open house is threefold. I would like to first talk to you about why study law. What's the very purpose of studying law, but why you should study law. And secondly, I would like to talk about why study in India. Some of you might be thinking about wanting to leave for higher studies immediately. I know many young people who are in the high school are looking at that possibility, and I would like to make a case for why you should study in India. And third, of course, I would like to talk to you about why study at Jindal and why an education at Jindal, particularly legal education, but also other forms of higher education, is a truly transformative experience and what you might be looking for. I intend to speak for an hour, and then I have devoted 2 hours for an extensive Q&A session so that all your questions and queries, particularly the ones that come from parents and others whom some of you may be present, but of course students as well, we will take those questions and we will answer. So without further ado, let me begin by talking in terms of why studying law is important. In fact, at every point of time in our historical evolution of our country, but also other countries, law and lawyers have played a very important role. We, of course, fought our independence through a very enlightened group of individuals who happened to be lawyers. Mahatma Gandhi was a lawyer, Rajendra Prasad was a lawyer, Sardar Patel was a lawyer, Dr. Ambedkar was a lawyer. Lawyers laid the foundations of our republic and pretty much, wrote the Constitution of India, which became the foundation of our governance as well. So in some ways, law becomes a foundational, framework for governing any society. I think it'll be useful for me to tell you that I believe that there are 5 frameworks of law that will be important for you to recognize and understand the reasons why you should study law. First of all, I believe very strongly that law is an empowering discipline. Now, of course, and I say this, I want to quickly introduce myself, and you will better appreciate why I say this. I myself did my law degree from Campus Law Center Faculty of Law, University of Delhi, after which I was a Rhodes Scholar at the University of Oxford, where I did my master's in law, after which I got 3 more fellowships to go to Harvard Law School, did another master's in law, practiced law in New York as an attorney, got admitted to the bar of the state of New York, and then, of course, taught law in Japan, and then taught law in Hong Kong for many years, after which I did my doctorate at the University of Hong Kong, and then, of course, moved to India in the year 2007 and pretty much early 2008 to set up this university. So I'll tell you more about the university later, but I have spent good part of my life studying law, understanding law, teaching law, researching in law, and of course, practicing law as well. So with that ringside view of law as a discipline and as a career, let me begin by saying that law, as to begin with, is an empowering discipline. It helps you understand and appreciate the the entire gamut of humanities and social sciences. And that's the first and most important, aspect of law. The second thing about law is that it helps you develop a deeper understanding of rights and responsibilities. I think for all of us who are trying to know what our rights are, law provides an opportunity for you to understand what your rights are, what your responsibilities are. It will enable you to ultimately develop a sense of transparency and accountability in all exercise of powers. And that's something which we'll come back to it a little later. But the idea is one of the things that law does is it helps us develop a better understanding of what constitutes transparency. How do you promote accountability? What are the frameworks of exercise of powers, and how we can ensure that the powers that are exercised with people are indeed not done in an arbitrary manner. The third thing which law does is it helps organize a society. It creates a structure of governance and involves itself in distribution of various powers across different levels of government, including, say, legislature, executive, and judiciary. But most importantly, in that context, it establishes the relationship between the citizen and the state. This relationship that it establishes between citizen and the state is the most important framework for understanding the law. It, in many ways, delineates the rights of the people and the duties and obligations of the state. And that's a very important reason why you need to study law, even though you may not end up becoming a practicing lawyer, and we'll come back to it later. So the third reason why you should study law is essentially to understand the relationship between the citizen and the state. The fourth aspect of law, which I think is very important, is that law in many ways enables the fulfillment of rights and freedoms by protecting the rights of individuals through institutions such as the courts and other dispute resolution mechanisms. In many ways, the salient feature of law is through those mechanisms, it attempts to achieve justice. For all those of you who aspire to seek justice, law provides an opportunity to seek that justice, which is in many ways paramount as we look at law as a social institution. And the fifth aspect of law is law creates a regulatory environment that will ensure a fair and transparent system of governance. This regulatory environment is not only in relation to public exercise of powers, but also in relation to private exercise of powers, including the law of contract and many other aspects of law which are involved in that. So in these five elements constitute the foundations of law and also forms the bedrock of why law is what it is. Of course, as young students, you must be also wondering what's the main reason why you actually should study law and what you get out of it. Well, first of all, I think one of the things that law does is that it helps you develop a profound understanding of what rights are and what kind of freedoms society provides. This could be through understanding of domestic law, constitutional law, international law, or any aspect of law. So the first and foremost, reason why you should study law is you need to understand what are your rights, what are your freedoms, and how those rights and freedoms have limitations, and to what extent you can negotiate that rights and stay and freedoms within the framework of the Constitution, the laws. The second, and I think it's a very important reason why you should study law, is to appreciate and understand the importance of equality and fairness. In this regard, it's about to what extent institutions that are created for enforcement of law, such as courts and even police and other justice mechanisms, other aspects and actors of both the civil and criminal justice system, to what extent they are contributing towards, in many ways, protecting and promoting equality and fairness in society. The third aspect is quite extraordinary, which is law is all pervasive. All of society is organized on the basis of some form of law and regulation. Today, for example, we are facing an extraordinarily significant global pandemic. Believe it or not, there are numerous laws that are actually in play, both domestic and international. When Government of India, for example, introduces special, ways by which we should be governed, there are provisions in the Indian Penal Code. If you look into provisions in, say, IPC section 269, 270, and all those provisions, it talks about elements of quarantine, to what extent quarantine can be enforced, and how people who violate quarantine laws will be attracting even penal provisions. There's an extraordinary provision which is actually an evolution of common law doctrine. It's called the doctrine of force majeure, which is essentially there may be circumstances, and that's exactly happening during COVID times, a number of companies and corporations and business enterprises, including landlords and tenants who are enforcing different types of contracts, they are invoking the force majeure clause. And essentially it means that during exceptional circumstances, there may be situations when it may be beyond your own creation, you simply may not be able to enforce and implement the contract. And that is an example today when we have a public health emergency, when we have, let's say, earthquakes, cyclones, tsunami type situations, or the ones that we are facing today. These measures are extraordinary, and it creates new types of relationship and creates new forms of obligations. So in some ways, what I want you to know is that law is all pervasive. Everybody, regardless of whichever walk of life one is involved, one comes into contact with law. And when you study law, you become enlightened. You become somebody who's familiar with the framework of law, who in turn can help organize the society better. It's also another important aspect of law, which is about law is responsible for creating an enlightened, progressive social, economic, and political order in a society. For example, one of the things that lockdown has done today is that it has also created a large number of people, particularly the ones who are vulnerable, the people who are disempowered, the marginalized, those who are, let's say the migrant workers or migrant laborers who are traveling from different parts of India, fleeing back into their own, villages. To what extent the enforcement measures that the government has put in place had taken into consideration their plight, their vulnerability, and to what extent the lockdown orders that are put in place, to what extent it ought to have taken into account their vulnerability. These are important legal issues. It has both moral dimensions, but most importantly, it has issues that are deeply embedded in our constitution, including the right to life and right to personal liberty. These provisions of our constitution and other laws are central to the advancement of the social, economic, and political order that I talked about. It's also important, and the fifth reason why I believe you should study law is that law is expected to build a society based upon the rule of law. And the fundamental tenet of a society that is expected to create a rule of law culture is that however high you are, the law is about you. You may be the Prime Minister, the President, you may be the Cabinet Minister, you may be the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India, you may be a billionaire. However high you are, the law is about you. That fundamental principle is what the rule of law is. Rule of law is central to the idea of democracy, because without the rule of law, you simply will not be able to implement the goals and aspirations of a democratic society. So I want to, in some ways, end this segment of what I wanted to tell you is that there is no career and study opportunity that encompasses the entire frontiers of human thought, and that is the study of law. Law will enable you to understand society better, but most importantly, law will empower you to rise up and to stand up for causes that deserve justice. It will also help you understand a deeper sense of objectivity and ensure that discrimination of any kind is not meted to anybody. It actually pushes you to question your own deeply held biases and prejudices so that you can ensure that you are part of the creation of an egalitarian social order. And that's what law does. So in some ways, I cannot imagine, any career opportunity and study opportunity than law. But I have to say that the state and evolution of law as a study and a career opportunity was not always, seen positive in our country. I will say my own personal experience, if I were to share. I come from a place called Kanyakumari, which is the southernmost tip of India. I grew up in Chennai, went to school and college in Chennai. But I want to say this because I know I can't hear your reaction, but nevertheless, I want to share with you a very important moment in my own life, which is the story of a lot of young Indians who intended to pursue study in, particularly in non-medicine and non-engineering careers. In that sense, I belong to what I would call the three idiots generation. I do believe many of you also belong to the generation because we came from social and family backgrounds in which studying, becoming a doctor or becoming an engineer was given far greater premium than doing anything else. And I remember very well when I decided to study law, a lot of my relatives would ask my parents, "What happened to Raj? He was a good student. What happened to him? What a big letdown that he has chosen to study law." Such was the sort of pejorativeness associated with the study of law, but also the pursuit of law as a career. But let me tell you, for all those who are watching this program, you are privileged. Society has dramatically changed. Today, more than ever, law has become one of the most sought after and attractive careers. Law has enabled thousands of young students to pursue a career not only in the field of law as you and I will understand now, but also a future that we haven't seen, but we can see the signs of it. Let me further articulate it. 25 years ago, if you had studied law, the only option you pretty much had after being a lawyer or after having studied law is to go to a court of law and practice law. You pretty much are confined to actually practicing law in a court of law. But now there has been an extraordinary, diversification of legal careers. You could do so many things after having studied law. You could become a corporate lawyer. You could work for a corporate law firm. You could engage in corporate law, financial law, trade law, investment law, intellectual property rights, and a whole range of areas of law as a lawyer in a law firm. You could also work for a multinational corporation. You could work for an Indian corporation in their in-house legal team. For example, you could work for the Tata Group or Aditya Birla Group or any other, companies and corporations, Indian or international, as an in-house legal counsel for them. You could also pretty much work, in a think tank as a lawyer. You could work for a non-governmental organization. You could work for a research institution. You could work for the United Nations. You could work for the WHO. Imagine today, WHO is involved in major issues that connect, the way quarantine measures could be imposed, to what extent balancing needs to be done between civil liberties on the one hand and public health emergencies on the other. You could work for, legal process outsourcing. You could become an academic. You could actually go into litigation as a lawyer, and that's still there. It's a big career opportunity. You can become a judge. You can, of course, become an academic like me and my colleagues. So the opportunity to pursue a range of careers in the field of law has enabled in more recent times for people to choose law as a preferred career option. Some of the most outstanding graduates across disciplines, and I have something very important to share with you, that whether you have done maths or physics or chemistry or botany or zoology or a whole range of STEM related subjects in your 12th standard, or for that matter commerce or accountancy or economics or political science or liberal arts or other types of broader humanities, social sciences subjects in your 12th standard, law will encompass you and you can do very well, because law gives you an opportunity to bring all those learnings and experiences and use it effectively as you study law. Such is the opportunity to excel in law. So with that, I would like to stop on the question of why study law. Let me move to a very important question, which I believe a number of you might be having in your mind. That's about, do I need to study in India, or should I think about going abroad? What are the options and things like that? Well, let me tell you, and I've written an article on the subject that was published a couple of days ago. Me and my colleague had written on study in India, study at home, study in India, and how COVID in particular is dramatically changing the world of higher education, and obviously applicable to legal education as well. But in addition to that, it's important for you to understand that law is also a very regulated profession, particularly when you intend to practice law, regardless of whichever jurisdiction. I strongly believe that undergraduation and study of the first degree in law, you need to pursue it in your home jurisdiction. And in your case, most of your case, it is, of course, India. And so, while I am a strong votary of promoting global education, international education, and mobility programs, and we'll come back to it shortly, I also very strongly believe that it is absolutely critical for you to be able to pursue law in India, and then during that time to, of course, get those opportunities to pursue different programs abroad, but ultimately also pursue in your higher education even beyond your law degree abroad. It's also important for you to understand that the undergraduate degree, and I must say that this is not something which I say because I'm talking to law students. I strongly believe that undergraduate education, regardless of whichever discipline, one should pursue it in India. There's a very strong case for it. But there is a case for it at two levels. One, it's your foundational degree in which it's your first opportunity to understand Indian society. It's your first opportunity to develop an independent understanding of what India is and what Indian society is, because you would have mostly spent time with your family and at home, and coming out of that, relatively protected environment, even for those of you who have done schooling in boarding schools, the opportunity to be in a university and to receive a world-class education at an undergraduate level is very, very critical. It's also important for you to understand that from a regulatory standpoint, if you look at practicing law in India, which I believe you should, then the need for studying law in India becomes even more important, because there are strong regulatory requirements imposed by the Bar Council of India, and those regulatory requirements should enable you to think about studying your first degree in law in India. Although I strongly encourage students, including our own students, to go abroad for their higher studies. I had the privilege to study both in Oxford University, England, and Harvard Law School in the United States, and I value my education in those institutions. But I also will strongly recognize the fact that I had the privilege to pursue my undergraduate degree, both undergraduate degree in BCom in Loyola College Madras, and then of course my law degree from Faculty of Law, University of Delhi, both of which laid the foundations for me to pursue my advanced degrees in law. I also want to say that we are increasingly moving into a world that is going to be far more global. Let me tell you, many of you today, as high school students, may be concerned about what is happening in the world. You must be, quite rightly, worried about the future of the world. You must be concerned about what is happening to these advanced countries which are battling the fight against coronavirus. You must be wondering that how ill-prepared countries around the world, including to some extent India, although I must say that we've been able to manage this crisis much better than many other countries around the world, including some of the most advanced countries. But coming back to the point which I want to say, this crisis will get over. We will together overcome this crisis. And if you don't want to believe me, I invite you to listen to Bill Gates. A couple of days ago, Bill Gates gave a very good interview to this program called the Social Distancing Daily Show by Trevor Noah. I hope some of you watch it, and you can Google and find out that show, and in which he talked about the 18 to 24 month plan in which potentially we should be able to find a vaccine for this virus, which will ultimately help the human society to overcome this crisis. So in some ways, This must be an important, let's say, optimism and hope for the future that we will overcome this crisis. But then the question is, to what extent young people like you are going to be better prepared in so many different ways, be it in the field of medicine or in the field of law. To what extent you will be able to help organize the society that we talked about, to what extent you will contribute to the building of an egalitarian social and political and economic order, to what extent you will be contributing to the establishment of a rule of law society, to what extent you will be involved in the protection of rights and freedoms with a view to advancing the cause of social justice, to what extent you will be empowering institutions of governance such as the courts, but also others, which will enable the relationship between the citizen and the state far more trustworthy than what it is today. That's why lawyers will play a very significant role for the future. They will be involved in determining but also in negotiating this space that involves exercise of powers, but also the relationship between the citizen and the state, citizen and the corporation, corporation and the state, the private sector and the public sector. So I want to move by saying that studying in India is a deeply inspiring opportunity, as it will enable you to achieve many more things in the future. I have had the privilege to do that, and I would strongly encourage you to do it. Now, let me quickly move to the third segment of my speech today. And of course, after this, we will have a longer interaction. Why should you study at Jindal? I have to say that having studied in India and abroad, I was deeply inspired by my experience of studying in Oxford. Yeah. In the year 2000, I got the Rhodes Scholarship in the year 1997, and 1998 I landed up in Oxford, and I was deeply inspired by my experience studying in Oxford. And I quickly realized that what an extraordinary learning opportunity that university had provided, and I felt so inspired that I began a journey into myself, but also to question the very idea of how higher education can transform societies. To what extent higher education, including legal education, can provide a transformative opportunity to students. That journey took me to Harvard Law School, to New York, where I practiced law, to Japan, where I taught law, and then to Hong Kong, where for many years I taught law. During those years, I pretty much conceived the idea of building a world-class university. And fortunately, I had the privilege to meet with an extraordinary man by name Naveen Jindal in the year 2006. Mr. Jindal, as some of you know, is an outstanding philanthropist, as somebody who has made significant contribution towards business and industry, was also in politics, and a two-time elected member of parliament. And I met him for the first time in the year 2006 and spent a year essentially making a case for why we should build a world-class university in India. Now, as some of you know, Mr. Jindal himself has had a very distinguished academic career, but also in business as well. He studied at the University of Texas in Dallas, did his master's in business administration. Before that, studied in Delhi universities. I think he went to one of the good colleges in Delhi University, where he completed his undergrad degree. He did his BCom degree in Delhi University. And then one of the things that was inspiring for him is that he fought the flag case. Now, today, of course, you must have seen that across India, there are Indian flags that are being put very majestically. And what Mr. Naveen Jindal did, and I think it's important for all of us as citizens who owe a debt of intellectual gratitude to Mr. Naveen Jindal, as he fought the flag case and enabled every private individual in India, including you and me, to be able to display the national flag with pride and a sense of purpose. I think it's important also to mention that there again, you can see the role of law. Very interestingly, the then law pretty much prohibited private individuals in India to be able to fly the national flag beyond the days of Independence Day and Republic Day and things like that. Mr. Naveen Jindal thought and felt that law was not right. and he challenged that law, and he fought that case all the way to the Supreme Court of India. And in a landmark judgment, which is Naveen Jindal versus Union of India, the Supreme Court of India upheld the right to fly the national flag. And since then, he and his wife Shalu Jindal, both of them set up the Flag Foundation of India and pretty much set up over 50 plus national flags across India, and including the one in Delhi. If you are from Delhi, you know the one flag in the heart of Delhi at Connaught Place is also contributed by Mr. Jindal. And most importantly, in our campus, and I hope you will visit our campus, we have one of the tallest flags majestically flying. And that was possible because of Mr. Jindal, but most importantly, because of the Supreme Court of India and the ability of the courts to recognize a law that was not right as not valid, and a new era began. Such was his enlightened thought process, and we were able to essentially persuade him to make a commitment towards building a world-class university, a world-class law school. He also made a commitment towards academic freedom and autonomy and independence, and to ensure that the university is strong enough to be able to attract the best of the minds from across India and around the world. So why study at Jindal? Well, in short, I do very strongly believe that there are very few universities in India, and I dare say South Asia, which can provide transformative education, a truly world-class education that can empower you and fulfill all your dreams and aspirations. That's what Jindal does. But that's not enough. I want to articulate further and to explain to you the 10 reasons why I believe Jindal Global Law School and OP Jindal Global University is the place for students who want to achieve excellence in their life and career, those who want to aspire to receive world-class education in India, those who want to do and walk the extra bit so that they can actually get an inspiring education which can be holistic, transformative, and bring out the best in them so that they can achieve all they wanted for themselves. The first and foremost reason why Jindal Global Law School and OP Jindal Global University is a world-class university is the fact that we have the best of the faculty. We have the most outstanding individuals as faculty members and as people who have contributed to their entire life in academia. Faculty forms the bedrock on the basis of which any university is recognized, and we have the best of the minds. Second reason why Jindal Global Law School is what it is our commitment to research, and through research centers and institutes that we have developed. We have over 50 research centers in our university, 35 in the law school alone, but other centers across different schools. Our law students are part of these centers. These centers are advancing the cause of research. Our faculty members are in many ways mentoring our students to be able to participate in these research centers. The third, we are a research-oriented university. One of the remarkable things about great universities around the world, including the few ones what I studied, is their strong commitment to teaching and research. Unfortunately, even the best of Indian universities have not paid attention to research. They are at best teaching institutions, and many of them don't even do that well. So the research aspect of our university is driven by the faculty publications and student research opportunities. Our students are part of the research ecosystem that we have developed in our law school. Our students are participants in research colloquiums, and our faculty members are actively involving our students in those research initiatives. And there are a number of research initiatives across different disciplines, from intellectual property rights to constitutional law, to human rights, to feminist legal theory, to gender justice, to administrative law, to family law, to many, many areas of law, and we'll talk about it in the Q&A session. So the third most important reason why a bright student who aspires to excel should study at Jindal is the research ecosystem driven by faculty publications and student research opportunities. The fourth aspect of our law school and the university is a strong commitment to a vibrant and an intellectually strong teaching pedagogy with a faculty-student ratio that is 1:10 or less. This faculty-student ratio that we have created has enabled our students to have more time with our faculty and our faculty members to have more time for research. Faculty-student ratio that I talked about, which is right now 1:9, and we never intend to go above 1:10, has enabled our students to have more time with our faculty and our faculty members to devote more time for research and publications. The teaching pedagogy that our faculty members adopt in the classrooms reflect their vast experience. And that also means that they come from different backgrounds, and I'll tell you more about it. The fifth aspect of our law school is a strong commitment to interdisciplinarity and cross-registration of courses. When you visit our campus, you will see that this is not just a law school. We have 9 different schools in the university, and they're all interlinked. They're all connected. Our faculty members teach across different schools. We have a law school, which I'm sure you know it and you're aspiring to be part of it. We have a business school. We have a school of international affairs. We have a school of government and public policy. We have a school of liberal arts and humanities. We have a school of journalism. We have a school of art and architecture. We have a school of banking and finance. And we have a school of environment and sustainability. These 8 schools, in addition to the law school, the 9 schools, form the fulcrum of the intellectual enterprise that OP Jindal Global University is advancing. Because of which, our students can not only study law, which of course they will and they should, but they can actually cross-register courses across different schools of the university. They can cross-register courses in the different areas. And all these areas are obviously interlinked. The study of law and business, the study of law and policy, the study of law and international relations, the study of law and media, the study of law and liberal arts and humanities and social sciences, the study of law and, believe it or not, banking and finance, the study of law and environment. Law is so all-encompassing that it provides opportunity for our students to be able to cross-register courses across different schools, and they will be able to do that without any additional fee. If you get enrolled into a school, into a program, so long as you are able to cross-register courses depending upon your schedule and what you want to study, you pretty much can have that. And I'll tell you more when we have the Q&A session. So the fifth unique characteristic of Jindal Global Law School, because we are not a law university. Unlike standalone law universities, we are part of a comprehensive university in which the law school is one of only 9 schools. Interdisciplinarity enables cross-registration of courses. The sixth aspect of our law school is our commitment to promoting clinical programs. We have numerous clinical programs that enable our faculty members and students to pursue what we call experiential learning. Now, what is experiential learning? I just said experiential learning. I'm sure some of you may not be aware of it. Well, the fundamental dimension of experiential learning is the opportunity for you to understand how the theoretical knowledge of law that you've studied and learned in classrooms and books, to what extent it applies in a field setting, to what extent law is able to be applied effectively or otherwise in the ground. And that's what our clinical legal education programs, our experiential learning programs, where our students are involved both in the local community, including in participating in other aspects of criminal justice processes, visits to courts and prisons and all of that. They get to have a deeper appreciation of what it is, how law actually gets implemented or unfortunately not gets implemented in the ground. Clinical programs provide opportunity for our students to question the very foundations and basis of law. It also helps them understand the gap between the theory of law on one hand and the practice of law on the other. And that is why clinical programs are very popular among our students. A lot of our students would like to engage with clinics at our law school. Seventh is internationalization and student mobility. If there is one thing that distinguishes Jindal Global Law School from almost any law school across South Asia, not just India, but across South Asia, and I dare say across Asia, is our strong, deep, and pervasive commitment to promoting internationalization in all its forms and manifestations. To begin with, we are a global law school and we take that very seriously. Nearly 16 to 17% of our full-time faculty members are non-Indian nationals recruited from 32 different countries and regions in the world. We continue to believe that law and the legal imagination that we are fostering is global in nature. At a time when artificial intelligence and robotics and machine learning are going to confront the field of law, at a time when issues surrounding privacy and ethics are going to be debated and even challenged within legal settings, at a time when legal profession, including the professional administration of law firms, corporations, companies, business enterprises, think tanks, research institutions, non-governmental organizations, intergovernmental organizations, all of them are going to be challenged due to technology and its impact. Law is going to provide a silver lining. It is going to provide the solutions, but most importantly, it will also help us understand the drawbacks of technology and to what extent we ought to regulate technology for effective use. This is possible only if we are able to internationalize the curriculum, but also most importantly, the mindset. We need to draw upon the expertise from around the world. We also need to create programs, and that's what we have done. We have partnership with some of the leading universities such as Harvard, Columbia, Berkeley, Oxford, Fletcher, and many other institutions. Over 250 partner universities spread across 55 countries in the world, in which we have implemented 10 different forms of partnerships. These include faculty exchange, student exchange, joint teaching, joint research, joint conferences, joint publications, dual degree programs, short-term study abroad programs, inward mobility immersion programs, and joint executive education programs. We strongly believe that India has arrived and the next century is India's. If the next century is India's, we need to equip our young people to be able to provide them with world-class education that will be transformative, inspiring, holistic, impactful, engaging, and most importantly, they should be able to see change. And that is what the law school does. Internationalization has converted into student mobility programs, as well as student exchange programs, dual degree programs, and short-term study abroad programs, details of which we'll be happy to share. The eighth aspect of our law school is our strong commitment to what we call moting, advocacy, and student activities. There are a whole range of student activities, including various clubs that the students have promoted for themselves, including music and theater, drama, and many other things. Sporting is part of our commitment. We have created a number of range of sporting activities on campus, and I'll be happy to share with you more when we talk about that as well. That's the mooting, advocacy, and a whole range of student activities. The ninth aspect of our university and law school is our commitment to student support services, including Office of the Career Services. We strongly believe that law schools and universities have a responsibility to create an aspiration and imagination for young people. It should be so empowering that after having studied in a good institution, they should be able to pursue their dreams and help them fulfill them. Our Office of Career Services has been mentoring our students to be able to pursue internship opportunities and other job opportunities in India and around the world. Our relationships, including the various partnerships that we've established with organizations in India and around the world, has enabled generations of our students in the last 10 years to be able to get the best opportunities. And I believe the best is yet to come when it comes to those opportunities, and you will be a recipient of it as well. The last aspect of our law school is, which is something which, at least when I went to university education in India, I didn't realized the importance of it. But I think now more than ever, it becomes important. And during this time of our own, human existence, it becomes even more important. We have a world-class infrastructure. We have a nearly 100-acre fully residential campus. We have all kinds of facilities on campus. You name it, including the best of the facilities, including sports facilities that I never got to have in places I had studied. But most importantly, we have a very well-equipped health center. And I mentioned this because of the fact that not just during COVID times, but I think in a residential environment, universities need to take the need for a good health center very seriously. And we are fortunately, even before this crisis, but now more than ever, we are very fortunate that we have a good health center which does cater to the difficulties of our community, including faculty, students, and staff. Before I end and invite questions, these 10 aspects of our institutional evolution pretty much, forms the foundation of our university. I have many more things to share with you, and I'll be happy to send you some documents. But I want to end by saying that Jindal Global Law School and OP Jindal Global University, I believe, has created a new model of legal education that goes beyond India, that goes beyond South Asia. I want to say this because when we began our journey a decade ago, little did we think, we knew we were out there to change the entire contours of legal education. We knew that we were committed to promoting excellence. We knew that we were providing world-class education. We knew that we are hiring the best of the faculty from around the world and from India. We knew that we were admitting students to an independent and transparent admissions process in the form of the LSAT examination. We knew that we were creating a world-class infrastructure that would create an enabling and environment for our students to get the best. But probably even we didn't imagine that it will have such a profound impact on the state of higher education in India, that today the world's most reputed international rankings, the QS World University Rankings, have actually ranked Jindal Global Law School as India's #1 law school. Jindal Global Law School has overtaken all other law schools in India, and we are ranked #1. In fact, among the only 300 law schools that have been ranked in the world, out of the probably over 15,000 plus law schools in the world, India has had only 2 law schools in the top 300. And the first is the Jindal Global Law School, which is ranked 101 plus. And the second is the National Law School, Bangalore, 151 to 200. And essentially, that has created a new framework for the discussion surrounding legal education, that even though we have 1,600 law schools in India, only 2 law schools from India, Jindal Global Law School and National Law School of India, University of Bangalore, are the only 2 law schools to have broken into the QS World University Rankings of law schools. And of course, because of that, we have also been ranked #1 in India, #1 in South Asia, and one of the top 20 in BRICS, and one of the top. I think the rankings will tell you that we are ranked pretty high in Asia as well. And of course, I told you the world rankings, where we are ranked 101 to 150. I want to end by this because it also shows what is possible in India. And I want to say this because we may be facing a number of challenges in our country, and many of you may be familiar with it. We might be facing a number of challenges relating to regulation and law, and even infrastructure and resources. But the example of Jindal Global Law School and OP Jindal Global University has demonstrated that, starting from very humble beginnings with only 100 students and 20 faculty members, when an institution can grow into such a large institution, but not just in terms of number, but to have developed an international reputation for what it is possible to do things like this in India. And that is the future, because as I look at India and as the world looks at India, we are a young nation. We are an old civilization, but a young nation. While we have 1.3 billion people in India, 850 million people in India are less than 35 years of age. As most parts of the Western world will become older, most parts of the Eastern world, including China and Japan, will become older. India will be younger and will be younger for a longer time. That means that young Indians like you, the ones who are sitting and hearing me speak, not your parents, but you, young Indians who are out there, you have a responsibility and an opportunity to shape the future. You have a responsibility to shape the future through law, because law will only establish a social, political, economic, and just order. If we don't take law seriously, we will go into chaos. The advantage of us having democratic foundations in the formation of our early republic will be lost if we don't work towards establishing a rule of law society. And that role and responsibility of establishing a society based upon the rule of law is going to rest with lawyers who receive world-class education in India, who can then go on to transform India and the world at large. I want to end by saying that it has been a privilege for me personally to have this at least one-way speech, to give this speech to all of you. I want to be able to answer your questions, and I'm going to open this up, and feel free to ask any question you have in mind. We will do our best to respond to your questions, and we will take them, and no question is less significant, less important. I am absolutely open. We are a very transparent institution, so please do not hesitate to ask for questions. So I am very, very delighted that we have this opportunity. And I want to say that some of you must be feeling terrible about the fact that this COVID-19 situation has emerged when you are graduating out of high school. You must have had lots of plans, and some of which have been affected. But I want to leave you with a very somber thought. United Nations has just published a study that the lockdown and the corona crisis is going to bring over 400 million people into risk of poverty in India. The vulnerable people who are going to be made far more vulnerable are out there. You and I are privileged. We should recognize that these inconveniences that we might be facing today far outweigh to what the poor and the vulnerable are facing and will be facing in our country. We may or may not be able to do much about it, but what we can do is we can recognize that with all privilege comes responsibility, and you have a responsibility to uphold the sense of justice, to uphold the sense of the rule of law, and you will have an opportunity for you to do that as you proceed in your own life and career. With those words, I would like to thank you for your presence, and most delighted to take these questions. Thank you. All right, let me quickly answer the question. There was a question about, if I don't get, LSAT exam rank. Let me first say that all of you who are listening to this, it's absolutely important to take the LSAT examination. Before even we talk about the LSAT rank, all of you should take the LSAT examination. Whether you take the CLAT or not, whether you take the ILAT or not, whether you take anything else, the LSAT examination is a foundation for you to be eligible to be considered for admission to Jindal. I will say that at this stage, it's important to make a very important distinction between LSAT and CLAT. LSAT examination does not test you on mathematics. LSAT examination does not test you on legal aptitude. LSAT examination does not test you on general knowledge. It tests you on logical reasoning, analytical reasoning, and reading comprehension. And so I would encourage you to prepare for LSAT. Some parts of the preparation for CLAT will be helpful, but you can also do more than that. Unfortunately, you need to do well in the exam. There is no shortcut. We don't have any management quota, or sports quota, or NRI quota, or any such thing. Everything is transparent. You get into Jindal Global Law School if you get the LSAT rank. And so what we can definitely do is, if you write to us, we will be able to direct you to sources that will help you better prepare for the LSAT exam. And the good news is the exam is now postponed to 7th June. You have enough time to do some preparation. And a lot of what you might have done in your high school years for the last several years, all of this will form the foundation for your preparation as well. Yeah, I mean, good score. I know what your question is. You see, every year it's a dynamic process. Our number of people who take the LSAT examination is very high, and it progresses. So all of which depend upon a particular year. We've had LSAT cutoffs ranging from 50 to 60 in various years, and this year we will not be able to tell you exactly what will be the cutoff, but you should have an aspiration to have more than 60% in your LSAT to be even considered for admission, and that should be your approach and mindset. But there have been years when the cutoff has ranged from 65 and 70 as well. So your goal is right now not to focus on the cutoff, but do well in your exam. There's a very good question about a student who says that he doesn't have any law background and should he be worried about opportunities. It's a fantastic question. 20 years ago, you should be worried about it if you were aspiring to study law. Today law has become such a democratically evolved profession. Those who have some heads up, in the early stages. So the only comparison I can have is, in fact, even today, film industry is also like that. I always say that Amitabh Bachchan's son Abhishek Bachchan did get a breakthrough, and producers would fund him, but ultimately, if he ever succeeded, it had to be because of his own merit. And if people who have that kind of background, you might get some, doors and windows get opened up, but ultimately your success will be determined on the basis of you alone. And that's what has happened today in law, regardless of litigation or corporate careers or other careers I mentioned. If you do well, nobody can stop you. And in fact, I have news for you. Over 75% of students that are joining us, at least, are people who do not have legal background, as in their family members are not lawyers. Maybe the number is even more. Last year, when the incoming class of nearly 800 students, under the 5-year law program, the 3-year law program, and the LLM program, we have all the 3 areas of law. And this year we have started the BA in legal studies. All those students, when they were there, I asked the question, and I was quite pleasantly surprised that more than 75% of the students had background, whose parents were not in law. So that gives you hope. That's a very good question. Facilities so we actually have tied up with an organization that will help our students to be able to, if they are interested in pursuing civil services examination, or for that matter, judicial services. In fact, I'm very happy to share with you that, nowadays, every year, our students are actually entering into judicial services. The topper of the Delhi Judicial Services and Rajasthan Judicial Services has been Jindal graduates. So we do provide capacity building opportunities for our students so that they can excel in these competitive examinations as well. So what's better, CLAT or LSAT? Well, it's not so much what's better. It all depends upon what you want to do. We don't use CLAT examination. If you are interested in Jindal, you have to take the LSAT examination. And of course, there are other schools which use the CLAT. But I gave you some important distinction between both the exams. LSAT is expecting a certain type of intelligence and aptitude that cannot be done through memorization. It does not look at your knowledge in law. It does not test you on mathematics, and it does not test you on general knowledge. Logical reasoning, analytical reasoning, and comprehension are the areas that the LSAT examination tests you. And that's why, and even otherwise, for many of you, this is a very important exam you should consider even as something that you want to have as an option, because you never know what the future is. You don't know how many people are going to take the CLAT examination. You don't know about which law schools. I mean, I don't generally make comments about other law schools, but it's only fair to say that barring the few, national law schools, maybe 2 or 3 or 4, there are different types of challenges that are facing other law schools across India. So you will have to make a very difficult choice, and that's why you should take the LSAT exam. So there's a question about law and social sciences. Listen, if you're a high school student or a graduate, you need to do, if you want to study law, you need to study a 5-year law program. You will graduate in 5 years. But if you are interested in UPSC and areas like that, you may enter into, let's say, a BA program. We have a BA in legal studies or other BA programs that we have, and then decide to study law if you choose to, but actually take the UPSC exam, because all you need is an undergraduate degree in a discipline. So it all depends upon what you want to achieve out of it. Absolutely. There's a question about whether for being a good IP lawyer, you can have humanities background. Absolutely. I mean, of course, if you had a science background, that does help you if you want to. But a lot of IP is not necessarily, based upon, STEM background. There are people who do intellectual property rights work which do not have STEM background, so you can pretty much do very well. We are actually very strong in IP areas. I mean, listen, our law school is quite unique. We have over 325 full-time law professors. That means that regardless of whichever area, be it intellectual property rights, constitutional law, administrative law, family law, trade law, investment law, IP, or criminal law, contract law, tort law, you pretty much jurisprudence, political theory, you name it, you have the best minds there. And so that will enable you to make your journeys into these areas of law. Well, there are questions which, some of those questions, yeah, there's a question about, can you take LSAT exam without doing coaching? You can do that, but at least you should have done a lot of model papers. So if you write to our staff, they can direct you to sources, including Pearson VUE, which does the LSAT examination. They will send you some of the past year's question papers, and you can do the mock test. And if you do well, then probably there's no reason for doing coaching. But our experience is students who do some type of coaching end up having the discipline and the familiarity with regard to logical and analytical reasoning questions. I mean, most of us in Indian higher education or Indian school education, we are not used to these objective type questions. So this may just be a good opportunity to prepare and practice for you. There's a question about placements. We'll be happy to send you a placement report. but all I can say is that our graduates have consistently joined the best of the law firms in India in corporate law, whether it is Amarchand Mangaldas, whether it is AZB and Partners, Trilegal, Nishit Desai Associates, Luthra, Keithan and Company, or for that matter, the international law firms, including White and Case and Herbert Smith. So our law graduates have done very well in the corporate legal arena. They also do very well in companies and corporations. As I said, many of them have entered into areas such as think tanks, research institutions. They've also gone into consultancy firms. Many of them have become entrepreneurs as well. And so that's another amazing thing about law. It enables you and empowers you to pursue a range of careers which are not only confined to corporate careers. It also enables you to do things that you may not have thought through, but you can develop your own businesses. It helps you understand regulation better. It helps you understand law better. It helps you understand in the entire licensing and approval framework better. Well, home jurisdiction is what I meant was that if you are from India, that's your home jurisdiction. And of course, as I said, this is not to say that law is not globalized. It is globalized, but legal profession, unfortunately, is still regulated very domestically. And in India, for example, it's important, Bar Council of India requires to a large extent you to have studied in India. And if you do end up studying law abroad, then you need to go through different processes to be able to qualify to practice law in India. For example, even for me to practice in the United States, I had to appear for the New York bar and take the bar exam. So India also, of course, now has a bar exam as well. But beyond that, it's important to have studied law in India. If you're a US citizen, of course, it doesn't really matter. You could, and we have US citizens studying law in India, and the beauty of that is that because we are a very globally engaged law school, you can pursue dual degree programs as well. Others can as well, but for somebody who's a US citizen studying law in India, you have a seamless opportunity to end up practicing law in the United States as well after studying law at Jindal. So you see, one of the good things about Jindal is that we provide opportunities for studying law at multiple levels. So if you are a student who is absolutely clear about wanting to study law and you're a high school student, you can actually consider the 5-year law program. But if you are a high school student, you are not sure you want to be a lawyer, but you do like certain aspects of the study of law, you can join the BA Honors in Legal Studies, which we offer, which is a 3-year standalone program. But if you are already having an undergrad degree, working in a multinational corporation or a company, and you want to enter into the study of law, we have a 3-year LLB program, which helps you to become a lawyer. And if you're already a lawyer and you are practicing law, working in a firm or in litigation, we have an LLM program as well. So we have the full gamut of the BA Honors in Legal Studies, the BA LLB, the BBA LLB, which is the 5-year program, the 3-year LLB, which is the graduate program, and then the Masters, which is the LLM program. The scholarship that we offer is to a large extent based upon the performance in the LSAT examination and not so much about the 12th standard. So I think even if you have not done very well in your 12th standard, you shouldn't be concerned about it. You should focus on getting the LSAT, and then that will be the basis for the award of scholarship. Yes, this is a very good question. Study opportunities abroad. I mean, one of the things that Jindal has acquired this reputation in India and around the world is that we have been able to create student exchange opportunities and dual degree programs in some of the leading institutions. Every year, around 35 of our students go to Harvard, around 35 go to Columbia Law School, around 100 of them go to Oxford University in 3 different programs, one on international law and global governance, another on multilateralism, and the third one, which is focused more on the liberal arts side, but law students do as well. We also have a partnership with the Fletcher School, where our students go on, international diplomacy as well. The beauty of these programs are this enables our students to develop an aspiration, but also creates learning. And these are credited programs. They are not just summer programs with no academic content, serious academic content with a certificate and credited into their transcript as well. Of course, we have dual degree programs and student exchange programs as well. So a lot of questions are on, the LSAT cutoff. I will want to answer that the LSAT cutoff is based upon the number of students who end up taking the examination every year. In the early years, we had lower cutoffs, and the last few years we have higher cutoffs, and that has a direct connection, link to the total number of students. In the past, we've had 6,000-7,000 students taking the LSAT exam. This year, we may expect nearly 10,000 or more, and that means it's going to be competitive. But I believe that many of you may not even fully understand and appreciate that you may just be very good at this exam, because this exam does not test you on your ability to cram and memorize. It is something which you've developed over a period of time. And so you can do the mock test and get a sense of it. Very good question about it. Listen, the coronavirus situation does create challenges for universities, but I would like to assure you that we are well prepared to gear it. As a fully residential university campus, our admissions process is proceeding as per plans. We intend to start our academic session in the fall semester, and we intend to, begin, our academic year as per what we have planned, and all those details will be given to you. But we do see that unlike many other institutions, we have been from day one probably better prepared than many institutions when it comes to responding to the COVID-19 situation. Yes, our admissions office will be able to give some information about the bank loan details. We do have tie-ups with a few banking and financial institutions which can help you to ensure that you have enough funding for studying at Jindal. The difference between BA LLB and BBA LLB is something which people have misunderstanding about it. Both are law programs. Only difference is that the BBA programs end up having a bit of more courses that are connected to the business world. But let me tell you, whether you study BA LLB or BBA LLB, it absolutely does not matter for pursuing any career you want, because it's neither a BA degree nor a BBA degree, both of which are law degrees, in which a very small portion of that will have a stronger emphasis on humanities and social sciences on the one hand, or business and management on the other. The class 12 score does not affect the admissions process. We don't count that at all. So long as you have the class 12 result, that should be good. We don't give any privilege to an alumni of Jindal when it comes to admissions. So all our students are treated equally. So that's not something which we enable. So if you're a Jindal student or not, you should still go through the same admissions process. Oh, absolutely. International law does help you. In fact, one of the things, particularly not just during these emergencies, but even otherwise, for example, there is a concept in international refugee law known as internally displaced persons, IDP. These are all, these areas of public international law are as valid during normal times as it is in emergency times. So the study of international law will not only help you to be a better lawyer, But if you do have and thinking about working in international organizations, it will help you and enable you to do it better. So Oxford and Harvard. Well, listen, I'm very fortunate. I do consider myself very privileged from the standpoint of having received in one is 800 years old, Oxford, and Harvard is 400 years old. They're both amazing institutions. They have withstood the test of time and remained as leading universities of the world. I would not like to trade either one of them. Having said that, I would say that both of them have different objectives when it comes to pursuing legal education. Oxford, I got an opportunity to study a lot of jurisprudence and political theory and more foundational elements. I studied the foundations of crime and justice and the penal system, objectives on foundations of common law, to what extent common law is advancing, the law of contracts, the law of torts. I studied comparative law, focusing on United Kingdom and US and Germany. I did a course on comparative human rights, focusing on many aspects of the work of the constitutional courts, the Supreme Courts of different countries. United States, I specialized at Harvard Law School more on human rights. And there, it's not so much the depth, but there was a lot of emphasis on the breadth as well. But then one of the remarkable things about the US legal education was that it enabled me to think more creatively about the very purpose of law and to what extent law is an instrument of social change and social engineering. And that element of studying law helped me to pursue my own interest in the field of human rights and academia much more. So to that extent, I would say Harvard Law School had a different type of impact. But listen, both of them are amazing institutions, and if only our goal is to draw upon the best of experiences from these institutions and bring them back to Jindal. That's a good question. I want to take that question. So there's a question which says that these webinars we do are nothing but PR exercise. I appreciate the comment, and I could have chosen not to respond to it, but I would like to respond to it. So listen, we are now a very well-established institution. Every year we have nearly 7,000 to 8,000 applications for 600 seats. So it's not so much about we need students, but I think one of the reasons why, and I want to say this, why I have taken this effort to come and speak to you is that I believe a lot of young people have so little information about the reasons to make their career choices, the reasons to decide what they want to do in their life, the reasons to understand what should be the criteria for determining where they should study. So my goal as an educator, not just as a vice chancellor, is to inspire young people to achieve their fullest potential, to be a mentor for people who simply may not have the opportunity. I come from as I said, I come from a middle class family in India. My mother is a doctor, my father is a professor. For me to come to Delhi was a big deal. I did my entire education in Kanyakumari and in Chennai and in Vellore and college in Chennai. So when I came to Delhi, it opened up my mindset and vistas. Then, of course, when I went to Oxford and Harvard, it was even more inspiring and transformative. I believe a lot of young people across India, particularly in small towns and cities, who may not have the privilege of the education that I received, I consider it as my duty and my responsibility to enable these young people to have a dream, to have an aspiration, to be able to recognize that you can come from small parts of India, to come from towns and districts as small as Kanyakumari, like me, or many others who come from different parts of the remote parts of India, and to have a dream and to have an imagination and to recognize that you can actually do these things even though you might have gone to an unknown school, an unknown, education institution early in your early schooling. So that is the reason why I am here, and I want you to know that. Well, that's a very interesting question on BA Honors in Legal Studies. So this is a very interesting and important program that we have launched. See, we felt that a lot of students who end up wanting to study law may not necessarily have made a choice and a decision that they want to become a lawyer. They may like to have known the knowledge of law and to study law as an academic discipline for, let's say, a few years and to get a degree. It's almost like what I have argued elsewhere. The law is the new liberal arts. Law is the new humanities. Law is the new social sciences. That essentially means that if you end up doing a 5-year integrated BA LLB or BB LLB, you have no exit option. You end up studying for 5 years with no exit option. If you end up leaving in later, don't get anything. It's an integrated program. And so we decided that it's important for young people, just as they would do an undergraduate degree in commerce or economics or sociology or anthropology or psychology, it's important for them to also have an opportunity to study law. And after they study the BA Honors in Legal Studies, they may decide to study law and they can do the LLB at Jindal or elsewhere. Or they can decide, you know what, I have studied law, I've liked it, I've got the knowledge of law, I don't want to practice law, I don't need to enter into legal profession, I have no interest in doing it, I want to go into business, I want to study business, I want to do MBA, I want to actually pursue another career, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to do a master's degree in public policy, I want to do a master's in international relations, I don't want to do law with a view to practicing law. The 3-year BA Honors in Legal Studies will enable you to do that. Well, doing an MBA after LLB is fine. There are people who have done that. Those who want to, have a career in law and business, law and finance. That's an opportunity which some people can do it. It all depends upon, see, one of the things law does is it empowers you to pursue a wide range of career options, including in the field of law. So, a lot of company level executives in the United States are people who have studied law. They've not practiced law, or they practiced law for some years and left. There are investment bankers, people who work in consulting firms such as McKinsey and Boston Consulting Group and Deloitte. And there are people who work in accounting firms such as, PricewaterhouseCoopers and Ernst & Young and other places, who happen to have studied law but are not practicing law. So law provides a foundation for pursuing a range of careers, and that's possible. Oh, there is no need to have a commerce background to pursue BBA, LLB, or anything like that. As I said, this has no relevance when you come into a law school such as ours. You just have to have, we don't look at which particular subject that you have taken in 12th standard. You are eligible to be admitted to both BA, LLB and BB, LLB. I won't be able to tell you this score 72, 92 and all of that. All I can say is right now, spend time doing the mock exams. That should do you well. And the more you prepare and the more you take those mock exams, you will be better suited to take the LSAT exam. Yes, let me tell you the fees question. I know a lot of people have this concern about the fact that our fee structure is higher. Let me tell you that you must have heard an institution by name Indian School of Business in Hyderabad. ISB is known to have a world-class institutional environment, and they charge almost 5 times more than us. Of course, that's a business school. We consciously kept our fee structure 5 times less than ISB, even though our vision is very similar to it, which is to have a world-class faculty, a world-class infrastructure, a world-class ecosystem for learning, and world-class opportunities. So while I recognize the fact that it is more expensive than some institutions or many institutions, I will give it to you on that. The value addedness that we provide for our students, the opportunity to be part of an extraordinary community of scholars and thinkers and students is what you pay for. But having said that, I do recognize that a number of you may not be able to afford, and hence we have a very generous scholarship policy which will enable a good number of students to be able to provide access. If you do ask me that everybody gets scholarship, of course not. A lot of people, even after the scholarship, may not be able to afford education, but our endeavor is to be able to make as many students accessible to the education that we offer, and we remain deeply committed to that vision. Oh, well, after you do your law degree, I strongly believe you should pursue, postgraduate education, ideally in one of the good institutions abroad. Many of our graduates on a regular basis go abroad to Oxford and Cambridge and King's College and Columbia and Berkeley and UC Davis and Cornell and Michigan and you name it. And some of them have got scholarships and fellowships to pursue their master's degrees. So I am a very strong believer in graduate education abroad. I would strongly encourage all our students, and so if you do become our student, then we do have a very strong mentoring program that will enable our students to pursue higher education abroad. And we also create opportunities for our students to receive scholarships and fellowships so that they can afford, those who can't afford education can actually be supported in that endeavor. In the BA, and we have 600 seats in our 5-year program, 300 in the BA LLB and 300 in the BBA LLB. Yes, IB students who have got direct diploma, so long as that is considered as a valid score for your qualifying examination, we will be most happy to use that as a qualifying examination results. And on that basis, you can take the LSAT examination anyways. And once you qualify in the LSAT examination, and if you do get good grades in the LSAT examination, we will admit you. As I said, we have a fantastic placement record. If you do send an email to our admissions office, particularly to Professor Anand Prakash Mishra or to Mr. Deepu Krishna or to Mr. Debjyoti, one of whom can send you our placement information. Yes, I mean, placement happens. It's not so much about undergraduate, postgraduate. Our students, regardless of in law at least, there are students who get placed after their, BA LLB or BB LLB, and of course LLB and LLM. So that doesn't matter. Yes, you can enter into judiciary after doing your law degree. You have to qualify in an examination. I do believe that the COVID-19 should not affect your admissions process. We are working round the clock to ensure that all our students we remain in very close touch. All our potential students, including the ones who are interested in us, remain in very close contact. Please ensure that if you have any concerns, write to us. The LSAT examination is fixed on 7th of June to enable things I hope will become better by then. But we are in very close coordination with the LSAT. And so the first step for you, all your law aspirants, is to take the LSAT examination. For all other aspirants, not in the law school, they should be taking the JSAT examination for admission to our business school, our School of International Affairs, and other such schools. Yes, we have a number of programs of semester abroad and as well. Again, that information is available on our website. We'll be happy to provide that as well. It doesn't matter which program that you do for student exchanges. We go on the basis of your performance, and we also interview students before they go for it. But we have a large number of exchange program opportunities. It's a very good question about whether, you see, the choice of doing a 5-year and 3-year is not so much about what you decide now. It's also connected to the opportunity that you're going to get. But if you have already done an undergraduate program, you should think about the 3-year, the 3-year LLB. If you are in a high school and you know law is your calling in life, you should do the 5-year program. And if for any reason you are not sure about the fact that whether law is a career, law is your calling in life, and if for any reason you, let's say, your performance falls short of it and you do want to enter into Jindal, the other possibility would be to enter into the BA Legal Studies Honors program and then go into the LLB program, which is the 3+3 model as well, which we do advocate very strongly for some students. So either ways, we provide pathways to enter into a law school. Yes, if you are a law student at Ambedkar, you are indeed eligible to do our LLM. We'll be happy to. We have a number of specialization. We have LLM in corporate and financial law, LLM in trade and investment law, LLM in intellectual property rights and IT law. This year starting an LLM in competition law. Also, we have a general LLM program. So we have, and also we have an LLM in environment, climate change, taxation. So we have a whole range of LLM programs that might be of interest to you. Well, after you finish the LSAT examination, we will also get the results, and we immediately give the offers of admission to those students who have qualified in it. So it's a very, very simple process after that. So the value of 5-year and 3-year, I mean, listen, I did my undergrad in BCom and did a 3-year LLB, and then went on to do so many other things. And a lot of young people today do the 5-year law program. It all depends upon what state of mind you are. If you are keen to specialize in another discipline, I welcome that idea. You should consider one of our undergraduate programs. We have programs in BA Economics and BA Global Affairs, BA Liberal Arts, BA Journalism, BBA program. We have BA BCom program. All of that is open to you. If you want to do law itself, we have the BA Honors in Legal Studies. These are all standalone 3-year undergraduate programs, after which you can decide whether you want to study law or not. If you are much more clear about your ideas of law, then the BA LLB and the BBA LLB are obvious options for you. You see, the 2020 academic year, it all depends upon the governmental rules and regulations. We are geared up to do things on our schedule. But as you can see, we are in a very dynamic situation. Our Prime Minister is expected to make a big announcement on the 14th of this month, and all of us are tuned to it. And many things will depend upon how the lockdown that we have is going to be extended or not, and if it's going to be extended, how long it's going to be extended, and if it is going to be extended, whether it will get applicable for education institutions and things like that. So as I said, we remain in very close contact, and we will obviously keep all of you informed about those things in the weeks and months to come. LSAT examination will enable, LSAT India will enable you to apply to Jindal. And if you are looking at LSAT examination separately, that's a separate exam which you should be taking. Although the framework of exam is same, but that exam is conducted for US law schools. Lots of questions about what happens after the admissions. We are, again, it's a very dynamic process. Okay, once the LSAT results come, we don't wait at all. We immediately announced it, and because the students already have got the results from LSAT, and we send the offer letters right away. So we don't see any reason to wait after the LSAT exam results are out. So there's no time lag at all from our side. Yes, there are many scholarships that I told you, and we'll be happy to share more information by email as well. The qualification for the 3-year LLB is an undergraduate degree. If you have an undergraduate degree in any discipline, you are qualified to, join the 3-year LLB program after the LSAT. Well, we don't offer admission to students on the basis of 10th and 12th standard board exam in results in that sense, unless you are seeking admission to the BA in legal studies. Although there is a requirement for the LSAT examination, but we may be able to give you provisional offer of admission if you have good results and there is a possibility for you to perform well. But as far as the 5-year BA LLB, BBA LLB, 3-year LLB, these 3 programs are concerned, LSAT examination results and that process is required before even we admit any student. The LSAT results are typically out after, say, 3 to 4 weeks of the exam. So if 7th June is the exam, then we expect the results to be out in early July or something. We don't admit students to the CLAT examination in our 5-year law program. Well, international collaborations I've dealt with extensively, so I'm going to skip that question. You can send an email. We'll be happy to send you more. So COVID-19 situation for collaborations, listen, as I told you before, so long as it is not in violation of any of our domestic law or the law of other jurisdictions, I do believe this semester, the next 6 months to 9 months will be very difficult for international travel. But the world is going to come back and come back, much more quickly than we all are able to think about it now. Of course, it's a very, at times, a very a situation of a lot of anxiety, and a lot of people, unfortunately, have lost lives. In India, still less. And so there is that anxiety. But I do believe that we will overcome this and the world will be back in business in that sense. And so all those programs will be back again. So these 6 months to 9 months are going to be tough, not just for India, for everybody anywhere in the world. And it's not advisable at that time anyway. So LSAT India is not JGU LSAT. We don't do LSAT. LSAT is conducted by the organization called the Law School Admission Council in the US. Pearson VUE conducts it. We have nothing to do with the test. So all we get is the results, and on that basis we admit the students. So there's a candidate from Dubai. Maybe offline we can try to see what provision LSAT has for people who are not in India, and whether there's any center based out of Dubai if travel during the time is difficult. So I would request you to send an email separately and we will answer that question for you. Law and business is a fantastic option. I've already told you law and diplomacy is also very important. Increasingly, international law and international relations are very strong, interlinkages. LLM eligibility is a LLB degree or a BLLB, BBLLB degree, and we have a brochure for that, and I'll be happy to send that across to you. Dual LLM degree. Listen, once you join the law school, we will have an orientation with our international office for you, and they will tell you the whole range of options that we have, including student exchange programs, dual degree programs, short-term study abroad programs, dual degree both at the level of JD and LLM. And in fact, one of the very popular programs that we have is a dual degree with Cornell Law School, and our students get to do LLB JD along with Cornell. So moving from a BBA honors course to LLB, you will not be the first person doing that. It's a very, very attractive proposition because if your ultimate goal is to be part of a corporate legal career, the knowledge and understanding of that you might have received in a 3-year BBA program will put you in good stead to pursue that. Obviously, fees and issues surrounding access and those things are all applicable for you as well. Of course, scholarships are something which you should consider, and we would be most happy to look at it. Okay, so artificial intelligence, I do believe, will have a lot of impact. And I think that impact is not so much about what people think that it'll take away jobs in law. In fact, one of the things that I very strongly believe, legal profession is here to stay. There will be new opportunities for lawyers, regardless of whatever situation. But one important distinction for law and lawyers will be that the more finer aspects of law will require human engagement that requires thoughtfulness, but the more routine aspects of law, including due diligence, document verification, more routine work that can be done more accurately and effectively by machines can be done with artificial intelligence. But then, while these are obvious responses, I'd say the issue of privacy, the issue of ethics. I mean, we all know about what happened to Facebook and those issues that are still live. These issues remain as serious issues now than before, as ever, and that's not going to change. And that's why law is here to stay. We already have an aviation law course. I hope you will take it if you do join. If you passed your 12th standard, you are eligible. We don't care if you've taken a gap year or something, and you should apply to LSAT for taking the LSAT exam. The new LSAT date is 7th June. You are right. There's a whole list of recruiters. We'll be happy to share that list with you. Sporting facility, we have we have a Olympic-sized swimming pool. We have basketball, volleyball, tennis. We have cricket. We have many other sports. So sports is, and we have of course a gym. We have a very active sporting culture as well. And students actively participate in sporting activities, and I'm very happy to see that because one of the things many people in the young generation are addicted to technology, and but I do believe, of course, I would like many more of our students to be in sports, but it's a very active sporting culture. Yes, you can, and there are many students who have balanced sports with academics, and you can. Um, so there are students who have entered into litigation and are doing very well. I mentioned to you about students who have also entered into the judiciary. We are an institution which have always fostered such opportunities and very strongly believe that students who are passionate about law can actually do very well in litigation as well. We don't have, in fact, more and more stories of our alumni are coming out who are entering into the legal profession are doing exceedingly well. There's some query about LSTAT. I'll ask my staff to reply to that. So there's a question about why should you prefer Jindal over NLUs? You see, generally, I make it a policy not to speak about other law schools. But if I were you, I will use an objective criteria for determining where you should study. First, look at the faculty, the qualifications and experience of the faculty. Second, look at the research centers and the publication profile of the faculty from that centers. Third, look at the international partnerships and collaborations that a law school has provided for its students. Fourth, look at the infrastructure and the enabling ecosystem and environment that the institution provides for. Fifth, I would strongly encourage you to look at the overall experience of alumni who have studied in these places. And you should not hesitate to talk to them. And I believe they will give you the answer. There are lots of repetitive questions. I'm just skipping it. Name and reputation of a law school. Listen, we are living in a world where reputation matters. I generally believe that the foundations is about your own knowledge and your own understanding of law and how well you are placed there. But it also is important to recognize that uh, going into a good institution provides a certain, it opens up doors, and that's very important. Yeah, you're a US citizen. Listen, one of the good things about, I would generally not say just law in India, but law at Jindal will enable you to be qualified to enter into the American legal, industry as well. And the good thing about such an opportunity is you become quite a unique person in the US context because, well, you are an American, you have the fact that you have understood or have appreciated the Indian legal environment can actually make you unique for an American corporation. We don't take account into your 12th standard results so long as you pass it. So the campus is, you should visit the campus. It's a beautiful 100-acre campus. There are a lot of spaces. There is no dearth of spaces. We maintain a faculty-student ratio of 9:1. I mean, you know, that's so while we will have our expansion in student numbers is much less than the expansion in faculty numbers. So we have more faculty than we need and more faculty in terms of student ratio than the students we admit. So I want you to allay your fears about the fact that we have a smaller campus and we don't have enough space. That's not the case at all. And as I said, come to campus. I mean, you should come to campus. All of you who are listening to this, please visit the campus with your parents. Don't take the decision without visiting the campus. All your questions will be answered automatically. Listen, we are now governed under under the national framework, and so there are no Haryana domicile-based exceptions now. We have been declared by the government of India as an institution of eminence, and so we have no such Haryana domicile-based exceptions, either in the form of admissions or in the form of fee concessions. This has happened last year onwards, in the sense that last September we were declared as an institution of eminence, and so now we are governed by the government of India's rules and regulations, including the rules and regulations that govern the 20 institutions of eminence, 10 public and 10 private. Yes, we will do that. The question about LSAT, I suggest that Dubai candidate, it's important to write to us and we can guide you to proper sources. I'm not able to, I would rather prefer we'll send you the full brochures for these partnerships. There are, as I said, we have 250 plus partnerships with the leading colleges and universities around the world. It's important for me to give that information. Yes, logical reasoning, analytical reasoning, and comprehension are questions in LSAT. Yeah, on the question of traveling from abroad, we will be very happy to make that special information available for you. Please do send an email to apmishra@jgu.edu.in. It's A as in alpha, P as in Peter, Mishra, M-I-S-H-R-A, Mishra@jgu.edu.in. So I am a strong believer in studying in law in India, but also undergrad education in India as well. Studying law in India is a no-brainer because unless you have no interest whatsoever to be connected to India and do not want to live in this country, if you belong to that category, then it's different. But if you have even the slightest inclination of doing something in India and definitely practicing law in India, you are vastly better situated with the evolving regulatory conditions of the Bar Council of India to study law in India and then pursue your master's degree abroad. All right. So, well, somehow we have managed to come to the end of this fantastic question answer. It's a pity that I could neither see you nor hear your voice, and it's been a monologue, me speaking and you just hearing, but at least I could connect to you through these wonderful set of questions. I'm sorry that we couldn't answer all the questions, some of which were repetitive, and if you couldn't get the full answer, but please feel free to write to us and do remain in touch. We want to be connected. At this stage, all I can say is that you should take the LSAT examination, position yourself as a suitable candidate for admission to Jindal, and you can keep your options open as you proceed forward in the future. I want to thank all of you, all the students, notwithstanding the other pressing priorities that you might have had today. You joined us in this webinar. I want to thank all the parents of the students. The fact that you were present here speaks volumes about how much you care about your children's future and their education. I appreciate your presence, and I'm most grateful to you for your questions and for this interaction that we've had through, at least through messages. I look forward to seeing you. I hope to see you on campus. I hope to see you hopefully in better circumstances when we might have overcome the COVID-19 crisis. I hope you will remain safe and healthy and follow the social distancing norms and rules. Be at home. And we are organizing a number of webinars on various aspects of law. And I invite you to join them. They're all free of cost. We don't charge them, not only on the issues that I talked about, but substantive issues of law. We are organizing those webinars, and please feel free to join those webinars whenever you got time. I promise you will enjoy that experience as well. All right, thank you and take care. Bye-bye.